Welcome everybody. We have an apology in Tom Dennis, and we don't have any media. We do have Mr. Bourne from the public. Welcome, Mr. Bourne. I now call it Lucindale Council. We acknowledge and respect our complex history, and we welcome everyone to build our future together. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed, recorded and published in accordance with Council's live streaming and recording of public meetings policy. To those present in the gallery, by attending a public meeting of Council, you are consenting to your image, voice and comments being recorded and published. Anyone who is invited to speak will be recorded, and their voice, image and comments will form part of the live stream and recording. I ask for any members' declaration of interest or other. There being none, thank you. I don't have any public forums, but I do have Dr. Heather Holmes-Ross, from the Mayor of Mitcham Council, with us this evening. And as we all would know, there is the LGA election is looming up on us, and we need to make a decision about which of five candidates we would like to nominate from our council. You have received already some video and mail from other candidates, but Heather asked me this evening whether she could make a deputation, and I was more than glad to have her on two walls. So welcome, Heather, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Ross. What a great name. Sounds something similar to Mayor Holmes-Ross, doesn't it? So thank you so much for allowing me to give a deputation this evening. I think that I've contacted most of you in the last couple of months by email, and I was keen to kind of get your feedback on any interactions or beliefs that you had with the LGA. So what I've done with that is I've created a sorry, I've lost myself. I've heard back from some councillors and most mayors, and I use this information to create the information that's in my nomination form, and I've sent out an email with that as well. So details that support my position. So I don't really want to go over that all again tonight, because you've got the information, it'll be in your agenda. So the reason that I asked to be here is to introduce myself, to give you an idea of who I am and what's important to me, and then I thought by extension you can decide whether you think that I'm, the type of person with the attributes that you'd like to be the LGA president. So I'd like to start by talking about my journey to becoming mayor. I come from a background in science research and also small business. I was working as a research chemist at Flinders Uni, and I met my second husband, and he was the executive chef at Qantas, but he was keen to have his own business. So we were youngly in love, and so he talked me around, and in this crazy sea change moment, we purchased a cafe in Blackwood. And we changed it to a cafe restaurant type thing, and we were running it along sustainable lines, ethical practices, local produce, crafted from scratch, all those type of things, showcasing local businesses and things, and using the circular economy before it was even a word. And while I was doing that, I created a Shop Local campaign, and we had 55 of our local businesses on board, and we were all working really hard to help each other. And I went to my local council and I said, please could you give us in principle support? Please could you give us someone to liaise with? We wanted to close roads and have community dinners and markets and things. And please could you give me $500? And they said, no, no and no. And I was really cross. So cross, I was like, I'm going to run from there. And so I did. And my tagline for that campaign was, together we can be better. And what that meant was, when you have business and community and council all working together, the outcomes are much better than if you leave one of those groups out. So I had three campaigns for that, three platforms for that campaign. The first one was environmental, so addressing climate change. The second one was the economy, specifically stimulating local businesses and looking for alternative income streams for council. And the third was about being a yes council. And by that, I meant having a default position at council being, how can I help that happen, and not, no, that's too risky. So I won the election. I cried into my pillow. I was like, oh my God, what have I done? And then I got on with the job, which is what you do. So part of my campaign was this idea that Mitcham could become the first 100% solar-powered city. And it took a while to get things moving, but eventually we went to tender as a council to find a collaboration partner to provide solar panels and batteries to residents and businesses with a no upfront cost option. And what we did was all the homework to de-risk the program for residents and for council. And this has been really popular with our residents. We've had almost 1,000 households out of 30,000 sign up, and in the last 2 years they've saved over $3 million on their bills. And they're making more money from a virtual power plant. Charles Sturt, Marion, Unley and Campbelltown have now replicated that scheme, and that's pretty gratifying for me. And I'd be really happy to brief you and your council about that program at another time, because I think that it would definitely work for you. So I can do that later. But the next part of this story is what happened off the back of the solar program, which was to do with our most recent electricity tender. So we went out to tender for our city operations, so that's our street lights and our club rooms, our civic buildings, libraries, community centres, what have you. And that to run all those cost us about $1.7 million a year. So we went out to tender with Murray Bridge to see if we could get a better price for a smaller volume rather than that usual LGA aggregated model. And the outcome of the process was that Murray Bridge is going with wind power, 100% wind power, and they're saving about $350,000 a year for the next 10 years. We're going with solar, and we're going to spend about $2 million, and we're lucky that we can, and we're going to roll out solar panels on all of our buildings and a heap of big batteries, and we're looking to save at least $10 million over the next 10 years. And then Charles Sturt have also signed up to a green wind plan, and they're saving around $700,000 a year for the next 10 years. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that the idea, it certainly has merit, but how, as a group, do we ensure access for other councils? Like, we've onboarded a heap of expertise to get to this position, which of course other councils wouldn't have. We didn't, we had to onboard it. But I believe that this is a classic example of where the LGA can play a role. I think that the transition to renewables offers countless opportunities, and the LGA is really well placed to take great ideas and help roll them out across the sector for the financial benefit of all of us. I think there's also a need to facilitate discussions between members who have common concerns, and examples of that might be bushfires or behavioural standards or childcare deserts, to name a few. There's dozens of examples there. And the other thing I think is that there's excellent solutions that are happening across the sector, but they're just not being shared. And we keep reinventing the wheel, and I think that there is a place for the LGA to help us share what we're doing. They are the perfect facilitator. And so the same things that were important to me in the mayoral campaign are what motivated me to stand for the president of LGA, and that's environmental sustainability, financial sustainability, and saying yes particularly to working together to explore these new possibilities, and by facilitating conversations in areas of interest and being very strategic with our research and development fund. In my travels, I've travelled around to quite a few of the regional councils this year, talking about the solar and listening to what councils have to say about their lives. And what I understand is that metro and regional areas have very, very different issues, and they need different things. But I think that we can still use our combined numbers to advocate. And I reckon together, and this is the thing, together we can be so much stronger. So I'd like to invite you along for the ride. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Heather. You certainly kept to the time schedule quite well.
Good on me.
Would you take a question if there were one?
Absolutely, yeah.
I put it to the floor.
I'll ask a question.
Councillor Goodman.
Thank you, Mayor Holmes-Ross. That's really interesting. Just a question at the end there. You did mention that you recognise the differences for regional and metro councils are different. Just wondering if you could expand on where you see those differences.
Right. Roads. There is so much going on in the regions to do with roads, and it's almost like I believe that that's the number one issue. And here there are so many other things that we deal with, and I feel like roads and roads funding it almost gets in the way of rural councils being able to do other really important work like building their community. And that's really, really sad, because roads and roads funding shouldn't just be a local government issue. There's the state government and the federal government really need to be chipping in and helping. And I think our advocacy at a federal level has been to ask for, on and on and on for 1% of FA grants. And that's not happening, and we don't see any of the political parties want to roll with that. So I think that we need a different approach. And I went to there was an online forum recently with the Grants Committee, and they were saying, I think, that South Australia has 12% of the roads and 7% of the population. We're getting something like 5% of the funding, or one of those might be wrong. But essentially we're being undercut. And I think that we need perhaps to be advocating to the state government to go in and bat on our behalf. Why is our state government putting up with us not being funded well enough? So that's just an idea. But I don't know all the issues, of course, but I'm very open to finding out, because as president, I represent everyone, and I know all about the metro sector, but not quite as much, obviously, about the regions.
And of course, roads is the big issue in regional South Australia, whether they be state government roads or whether they be local government roads. And, it's just underfunded to an extraordinary extent. And that certainly needs to be picked up. And for someone, or, the LGA really needs to pick up and advocating on these big ticket items for all of South Australia. And the regions have the roads, the vast network of roads which bring
absolutely and they,
whether it be forestry, mining, doesn't matter, that brings it into the port. So they understand, state government, federal government understand where the money comes from. We just need to ensure that the infrastructure is fit for purpose, and at the moment it's not.
Yeah, no, that's what I've heard, and so I think if that's the issue, the number one issue, then that's where our number one focus should be, in helping regional areas. Yeah.
Any other questions for Mayor Holmes-Ross? No. Heather, thank you very much for your deputation, and I'm unsure whether we're going to make a decision this evening around our nominee for LGA President, but thanks for doing a presentation with us.
That's an absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me, and have a great night and a really fun meeting.
Okay. Bye-bye.
So
Excellent. Item 5. Item 5, confirmation of council minutes, the meeting of the 27th of August. Someone like to move? Councillor Ross. Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Turner. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. There were no matters. Item 6, no matters laid on the table from the previous meeting. Item 7 is my Mayor's report, which I'm happy to move and take any questions if there were any. Being none, would someone like to second that? Councillor Ireland. All those in favour? Thank you. We haven't received any elected members' reports. Item 9, Chief Executive's report. Thank you, Mr. Smart.
Mr. Mayor, first item, Local Government Association election of LGA President. I've just heard from one candidate. We're not required to vote tonight, or actually at all if you don't wish to. We can do the October meeting. That's entirely up to council. Mayor Ross has indicated perhaps that we could leave it to next time, but all the information is there for your consideration. I think perhaps if you wish to leave it till next time, are there any questions that you want posed to any of the candidates that are not covered within their profiles? It'd be an opportunity for us to go back to all 5. Anything that's very specific to either regions, our own region, or other questions. So it's just an opportunity that we could provide to all those candidates, but up to elected council, which way you want to go.
If I may, Mr. Smart, I think that's it's an exceptional opportunity to actually ask the candidates to flesh out some of the questions that are more pertinent to us in the regions. And I really encourage you to think about that over the next, week, and get our questions in, and we can then get them off and get more information. I think it is important that the LGA represents those of us out here in remote South Australia. Thank you, Mr. Smart.
Yep. So I would suggest if you have any questions, put them into me by Friday next week. I'll sit down with the Mayor and we'll go over those and deliver the questions to the candidates. From a CEO perspective, the LGA region has been putting some pressure on what and how the LGA delivers to regions. So I think there are opportunities to vote for a president that will perhaps push the LGA a bit harder in the state government on some various issues that challenge us. LGFA, election of representatives, all the information is there for you. This one we do have to vote if you wish to tonight. I've suggested in my report Michael Sedgman, the existing CEO City of Adelaide. He's been chair of the board for some time. It's a well-performing authority, provides us with good benefits both from lending and investment. And I've suggested the other choice based on a skills-based board, Grant Piggott or John Smedley. So happy to take questions or any other choices. My recommendation is there for your consideration.
Further discussion? Is Council happy to defer the election of LGA President nomination until the October meeting?
I'll move that.
If we just resolve, resolution. I'm happy with that. If we're all happy.
Question of clarification: do we vote individually on an ex paper, or was that a council decision on the president?
It has to be by resolution of council, so it's not individual members. We make a decision around this table, and then we cross the box and send it in.
Right, one cross, one box.
Yeah. So a resolution of council as to there will be discussion and debate around preferences, and the council will make a decision, and that will be our nominee.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm happy to defer that. In regard to the Local Government Finance Authority, would someone like to move?
Happy to move that. I think it's a good choice.
Thank you. So you are moving Michael Sedgman.
Yep, and John Smedley.
And John Smedley.
From Oldcast, I think he is.
Councillor Ross, is there any further discussion? There being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you.
The next item is Legionddale Rec Reserve, the 2 leases for the football club and netball club. Public consultation has been undertaken with some, I think 3 comments made. My response to that is in the report, shown in red. Nothing of what I would call significance in those questions. Most of it's taken care of within the lease. Both clubs are continue to be happy with the items and the draft, so my recommendations are that we endorse those leases and the signing and sealing, and finally move on with an outcome for those 2. The show shed is still under discussion. The show shed and other users of the Rec Reserve are having some different conversations between themselves. when they're ready, I'll visit again, sit around the table. They appear to be moving towards possible demolition of the shed, but exploring with football, netball, etc., how to get a new shed out there, and they may come back to council with a proposal on that.
I'm sure the council would agree with me, Mr. Smart, that it'd be nice for you to get some finalisation around the show shed along with these other leases before your departure.
That would be correct. We'll finalise at least two parts of that, 2 parts out of the 3. Yeah. So my recommendations are there for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Smart. Would someone like to move that the council approves the lease between the council and the football club? 21-year lease. Councillor Downwood, Councillor Goodman. All those in favour? Carried, thank you. And secondly, we have the lease between the council and the Lucindale Netball Club. Would someone like to move to that effect? Councillor Goodman, Councillor Crosling. All those in favour? Carried, thank you.
Thank you. Final item, Narra Court Aerodrome Working Group. As a presentation to our August council meeting, I've provided within the meeting a working group terms of reference, so moved away from the Section 41 committee to a more informal approach. I think I've had discussions with Jason Law about the makeup and purpose of the working group. I've included some of his comments within there, some I haven't taken on board. Had a discussion with Councillor Owen before this meeting. Look, it's open to debate, change, whatever. I think the purpose is quite clear. It's probably the membership that may be up for more discussion, but the purpose really is to, as quickly as we can, with less bureaucracy as we can, to have some ongoing discussions with both commercial and recreational users, but also RFDS, CFS, Aerops, and other agencies that may be able to provide future services or infrastructure at the aerodrome. So the membership is at the moment suggested 9, so 3 elected members, 3 independent members of a commercial nature, and the President and Secretary of the Aero Club, and suggested 1 independent person representing CFS Aerops, so basically from Adelaide. Reason for that is, as Mayor Ross would be aware, various parts of CFS have various opinions. If we're after funding or infrastructure improvements, we need to go where the decisions are made and where the funding can possibly be provided. So they're my suggestions, but open to discussion, debate, questions.
Happy to take questions.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. A couple of very minor alterations I'd like to offer for that working group, but one of which, well, I can do so at this stage.
So at this point, we haven't had any names proposed?
No, that's correct. And that was the other thing I was going to ask Mayor Ross, is at what stage do you wish, if we're moving a motion, that we appoint these elected members? I mean, we can ask for a show of hands, or... I think from what Mr. Smart has said, the sooner we can actually get this ball rolling, I think the better. Yep. Okay. Because the intent is that this doesn't, that this working group, does its business and and gets on with it, and then has its business concluded. That'll be the ideal situation. I agree totally. First of all, I think it's probably a better direction to take to have 4 independent members that are involved in the commercial operation. I just think it's remiss of us not to include the flight instructor for feedback and input he can have for direction of what's happening out of the airport. And the other thing is, I was just going to change the wording perhaps for the for this working group statement of purpose, for it to be for the working group to remain in operation until such time as determined by the Narra Court Lucindale Council. So in other words, if we need reviews to this AMP, it's there, we can fall back on it. So that's all I'd like to add at this stage. Thanks.
That sounds reasonable. So that would increase the membership to 10.
Yep.
Okay. I'm sure they can all work together. At this point, we're looking for 3 elected members. Councillor Grundy.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Ross. I'd like to nominate Councillor Ireland, please.
Councillor Ireland. Councillor Crosling, did you?
Yep. I would be interested in going on this working group.
Councillor Crosling nominates. A third party.
Having been here, I'll put myself up.
Councillor Downwood. Any other nominees? Councillor Goodman.
I would also be interested in joining this working group.
You'd be interested in putting your name forward?
Correct.
Councillor Maguire.
Mayor, I think if there's 4 passionate elected members, let there be 4 passionate elected members. Is that okay? Just change the terms of reference?
Absolutely. I thought you were going to add the number. I think that's fine. Yep, I think we'll go with that. The important thing is here that this gets the ball rolling, becomes operational, and we get some outcomes as quickly as possible. I think that's really what everyone wants. You can work with that, Mr. Smart?
Sure.
You're a very capable person, exactly. And we'll delegate to the CEO to accept nominations from the commercial sector. Are we happy with that? Would someone like to put Councillor Ireland?
I'm happy to move that.
Happy to move?
With those alterations that were aforementioned.
Yes.
Thank you.
Seconder, please. Councillor Ross? All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Excellent.
That's me done.
Mr. Willsmore, item 10, key projects.
No,
welcome back.
Thank you. Just wanted to add for the key projects report, we recently received approval for the weirs from Landscape SA in the creek. So we're currently sourcing pricing for the supply of those weirs, but it's been quite a process, but a good result to get approval for those works to proceed.
Any questions of Mr. Willsmore? Councillor Crosling.
I just wanted to ask through you to Mr. Willsmore how the sealing of the floors was going on the swimming lake, and will this have any effect on the opening dates of the swimming lake this year?
Thank you. So some pre-works have been carried out as we speak, so that's not going to impact on the opening of our lake. So we've started some of the pre-cleaning works and scuffing up the area for the paint application. So we'll be looking at starting some of the paint application mid to late next week, subject to weather. So that's all been programmed in, ready for the cleaning and preparation for the opening of the lake. So that will not impact on the opening of the lake this season.
Mr. Willsmore, maybe a question for Mr. Smart, but have we had correspondence from either Tallis or Wheatons?
Yes, we've received draft reports from both organisations as of late last week, so we're currently reviewing that information and going back to them with a few questions. So we are working with those, and they'll be presented once we've got the final documents.
You hope those to be presented by October or November?
Probably November at this stage, so there's still some review works and finance works that have been carried out. So drafts were received late last week.
Thank you, Mr. Willsmore. And Boddington's Road is?
Yep, Boddington's Road's holding up, so part of that, the sealing works that we're doing, we'll go back out there in November. So there's some minor maintenance works being carried out there now with the drains. And the reseal based on the warmer conditions, so that's been programmed in for November to finish the top corner and the revised intersection.
Thank you, Mr. Willsmore. Any further questions of Mr. Willsmore? Councillor Rayner.
I'd like to say that the staff did an excellent job of cleaning up the entrance to the car club. It is just a magnificent job that they've done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rayner. And I'd also like to reiterate, I mentioned to Mr Smart, but I had a message from a ratepayer in Wattle Range who travels from Wattle Range to Pathway, and he commented on Marambro Grub Road. It's the best he'd ever seen it in 25 years, and so I passed that on. Mr Willsmore, and please pass it on to all the staff and those people involved. Thank you. No further questions. Item 11.
Thank you, Mayor Ross. Nothing further to add. Happy to take questions.
Any question through the finance? Councillor Turner.
Just a question. I did look for it today, and I probably just had a mad look. Is there a depreciation line in the for the library building? I was reading about the maintenance on the library, and I was looking for it in that budget. I saw a lot of depreciation items for various buildings, but I wasn't sure if there's a depreciation item for the library.
Certainly should be. It falls into a couple of categories. There's the IT aspect and the building aspect. So I can certainly check that out, but it would be captured somewhere. Whether it's not flagging on that report, I can certainly have a look and let you know.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. I'm sure we'll take that on notice.
Yeah, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Ms Edmonds, any further questions for Mrs Edmonds? Being none, thank you. Item 12. Item 11.2. Request for additional financial support. Carrollton Square.
Oh, sorry, did you want me to speak to it?
Well, you may. It's reasonably explanatory.
It was more so presented due to the fact that in our community organisations financial support policy, we as administration have up to $1,000 threshold for instant approval. So because this is an ongoing request, we're looking to council to make that call for the $2,000 annual support.
Councillor Maguire,
I'd like to move.
Would you like to stand?
Yes, I would like to move it, and just a brief addressing it. It's one of the events that we hold the town holds every year. It's attended by many, and for what we get out of it, $2,000 is quite minimal. There's a lot of work, a lot of volunteer hours that go into it. So I'd hope council would support it.
Thank you, Councillor Maguire. Councillor Grundy, second.
Second that.
Thank you, Councillor Grundy. Is there any further discussion? I agree, Councillor Maguire. I think it's a valuable thing for the community at that time of the year. They love it. I put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you very much. 11.3, the community chest. Everyone's had an opportunity to go through the community chest, and I think congratulations on a job well done from my perspective. I think you got it pretty right. Would someone like to move the distribution of $12,790, this being the first round? And just remind me the total amount that could be funded in a year from council?
So it's $40,000 annually in 2 lots of 20,000.
Yeah. Okay.
Happy to move that.
Thank you, Councillor Crosling. Councillor Goodman?
And speak to it if I may.
Seconded, Councillor Goodman, yes.
I'm really pleased to see the diversity of projects that we are funding through this community chest grant, but I'm disappointed that there's not more clubs applying. We do receive letters from time to time with requests for funding, which is reasonable, but I'd like to remind clubs that this is a really good avenue to be asking for council support for projects. And as Mayor Ross just said, $40,000 annually, looking to distribute $20,000 each round. We haven't done that this time, so, you know, yeah, I know it's been well advertised, I've seen that, so yeah, it's just a bit disappointing that there's not more interest from groups to be taking up this support from council.
Yeah. Thank you very much, and thank you, Mrs Collins, for your work in informing the public. Any more questions? There being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried, thank you. Item 12. Item 12.1. Would someone like to move that the minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee be accepted? Councillor Ross. Seconder is always good. Councillor Crosling, thank you. All those in favour? Carried, thank you very much. That the reports relating to the performance of the livestock exchange are received and noted. Someone like to move to that effect? Councillor Grundy, Councillor Ireland, thank you. All those in favour? Carried, thank you. The minutes of the Strategic Asset Planning Committee meeting of the 10th of September. Would someone like to move to that effect? Councillor Turner, seconded Councillor Ross. All those in favour? Carried, thank you. Dickinson's Road. Okay, so this came out of the Strat plan, so we have that Dickinson's Road be taken on notice to identify any comparable or similar level roads currently on the hierarchy. So it's just a request of the administration to see what there is. Would someone like to move to that effect? Hanscott, Turner and Ireland, thank you very much. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? There being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried, thank you. Councillor Maguire.
Oh, I was just getting in early for the next one, Mayor.
You're on the books. Councillor Maguire has moved that Shuards Lane, which is currently 12:30, have an additional. You may.
I was actually wanting to attempt an amendment, if I may. Sorry I didn't make this the strategic asset management, but my amendment, I like the first motion, and I was just going to ask that the amendment be that Shuards Lane be taken on notice to identify any comparable and similar level roads currently in the hierarchy as well. I think that first motion is very good. Oh, sorry, I better not speak to it until do I need a seconder or?
No, you speak to the motion trying to gain, but you have moved this motion.
Yes.
You're foreshadowing an amendment.
Right, so I can speak to it.
It's not an amendment because it's only a recommendation from staff.
Okay.
You can change the wording of the motion as a mover.
Well, that is, no, if you're doing that, you'd actually be fundamentally changing the motion. So that wouldn't be accepted.
It's not a motion, it's only a recommendation.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, so he's not changing it.
But this one of Shuards Lane, is that a recommendation or?
Yes, it's a recommendation for committee.
Okay.
Wait till we work out. Sorry about that.
Okay. You've moved the motion. You're foreshadowing an amendment. So if you'd like to just give us an indication of what the amendment would look like, the Dickinson Road motion, is that what you're suggesting?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. And just a brief, do you want me to speak to it now?
Well, I think that's pretty clear,
okay.
but you could.
Okay. Look, I just think the consistency, having the two, I think that first recommendation is a great idea, and would be silly not to implement the same thing for Shuards Lane if we're going to do for one, and if there is any similar lanes or roads out there, we need to be offering that across the district.
Okay, so let me just remind everyone in the room that Dickinson's Road, we're actually looking to move it, to change it on the hierarchy from a level to another level. And in the motion that came up from the SAP plan is to actually add an additional 636 metres that has been deleted.
Yes.
So,
I understand.
Yes, so, are you asking, where this has happened before, that there's been areas deleted?
Correct. Yes. So if there's similar, if there's similar circumstances and roads that have been deleted or downgraded, then I'd like to see a report if there's anything the same as to identify anything that's comparable or similar. Just because if we come to budget time, and there's obviously going to be a cost for Schuards Lane, if there is something, if there are other roads in the district that are similar, we need to take that into consideration as well. Sure. That's my thoughts.
You move, okay, so this is a recommendation, but the first recommendation still stands as I see it.
Correct. So it's no different to an officer's report. Recommendations that told
I'll ask for further discussion. Councillor Grundy.
Well, thank you, Mayor Ross. It's unfortunate that Councillor Maguire wasn't here for the SAP meeting because out of meeting procedure this was discussed extensively. And it's probably a bit unfair in that we're in meeting procedure now. So my question is if Councillor Maguire's amendments are lost, will you represent this, or can someone else move this as it's written tonight? I think the answer is yes.
Councillor Turner.
To expedite this, could I second the motion that Councillor Maguire moved, which is that Schuards Lane be taken on? That Schuards Lane is currently extended, so that what was written there, which is because Councillor Maguire's foreshadowed what he would like it to say, but he actually moved the motion as read, which I'm happy to second, given that we passed that at the SAP meeting.
Yes.
And we could vote on that. If it's lost,
yes,
we can go to.
We can go back to the foreshadowed. I think that is most probably the appropriate way, in my opinion. So Councillor Turner has seconded. Is there any further discussion on the recommendation that's proposed?
That's not what he moved.
So, I didn't actually want to move the original motion, Mayor. I wanted to move an amendment. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I know I'm making it difficult.
That was quite confusing.
Sorry.
Okay. I haven't got my good book in front of me. Okay, so I think the way to actually to progress this is to actually not amend, may not be the word, but just to
Ross.
Yes.
An elegant solution might be for the mover of the motion to withdraw the motion.
That would work. That would work.
The original motion?
Yes, because that's what you moved. You moved the motion, the one that was on the table, and then you foreshadowed an amendment, which made it complicated.
It did.
And so yes, if you were to withdraw,
I'll withdraw that.
Then we just start with
that doesn't necessarily mean that anything changes on the page. It wouldn't get too carried away. We'll just see how this progresses. So, Councillor Maguire, would you like to stand and put a motion?
My motion be that Schuards Lane be taken on notice to identify any comparable or similar level roads currently on the hierarchy.
And during that thank you, Councillor Maguire. And during that process, that I think from the SAP plan there would be an expectation and understanding of, when you're looking to identify comparable roads, where there have been roads that have been 2,000 metres long and now they've been reduced by 500 or 600 metres, or there's been areas taken off them. That's what you're actually suggesting.
Just the broad, information similar to the current or the top.
Well, Dickinson's Road's a little different, actually. It's quite different.
No, it is, but
Dickinson's Road is very different. So my understanding would be that Councillor Maguire's motion recommendation would be the top one, but in looking into it, that the administration would be cognisant that as per the SAP meeting, that it is now 1,230, and there has been a reduction of 636. That's how I think that the SAP meeting people would like it. Councillor Goodman.
I have a clarification around what comparable or similar means in this circumstance. At the SAP meeting, the discussion was around that Shuards Lane has rubble, it has a culvert, it has markings for grading, and it had white marker posts, which made it significantly different to a lot of other roads that had been deleted from the hierarchy. If we're looking for similar or comparable, are those components going to be also considered in what's similar and comparable?
Would I be able to ask?
If I may, Mr. Willsmore, within your realm and understanding of our road network, would you imagine that there would be similar roads within our network?
Yes, there's similar roads in our network. The SAP meeting discussed Greens Lane and Nod's Lane, which also has culverts and rubble on. So there's various roads in our network that would be similar to Shuards Lane that can include that.
Thank you, Mr. Willsmore. Councillor Goodman. For want of a seconder.
Question, Mayor Ross.
Yes.
Just for clarification, if the top two lines, in other words, Councillor Maguire's motion is lost here in a minute, are we in a position to readdress the original intended recommendation?
I'd be happy to bring that forward. Okay. For want of a seconder. Councillor Crosling. Do you wish to speak, Councillor Crosling?
Just for the record, there was 4 elected members who actually weren't here at the SAP meeting, and I did watch it back. There was a lot of discussion. Obviously, I think the CEO did a good job of explaining as to why it was taken off the road hierarchy. As an elected member body, there was a lot of discussion about 5 landholders. In this chamber, there's only ever been 1 that has approached council, has spoken to council, has contacted council. So as far as going, there's 5 landholders. I don't know who those other 4 are. None of them have ever come to this chamber or contacted council that I know of. So there's only 1 landholder that I'm aware of that Shuards Lane was affecting. At the end of the day, I know there was discussion at the end of the SAP meeting about this and the financial implications. So I think this is what Councillor Maguire is trying to get at, that, you know, if you do it for one and you do it for one friend, well then we do it for another friend and we do it for someone else. That's not what we're here for. I'm pretty sure Councillor Dennis spoke very well as to why this motion, he didn't vote for it. So there is repercussions of doing things like this. So that's hence why I think it's a good idea to go with Councillor Maguire's motion.
Thank you, Councillor Crosling. If there's no further discussion.
Just a question.
Yes.
There's no, if this was to be to go up and to be changed in the hierarchy, there's no budget allocation for this budget, though, is there, to allow it? So to go forward, it needs to be put to budget anyhow at this stage. So until you see those figures, it's you to make a judgment call on it. We really need those figures to make that assumption whether you want to go ahead with it.
That's right. It's not within this year's budget. You're quite right, Councillor Ross. Any further discussion? Being none, I put the motion that Shuards Lane be taken on notice to identify any comparable and similar level roads currently on the hierarchy. All those in favour? 2. Those against? The motion is lost. My undertaking that I would allow someone to put the original motion from the SAP plan. Someone like to move to that effect? Councillor Ireland. Councillor Ireland. Would you like to speak, Councillor Ireland?
Yes, I'd like to move the motion that Shuards Lane, which is currently a 1,230 metre limited access road, have the additional 636 metre section that has been deleted previously reinstated as a limited access road. If I may speak briefly for the motion,
yes,
please. I mean, and a lot of this was done at SAP level, but, you know, just for those that weren't present. And I'm unsure of Mr Maguire, what he thought of Sherward's Lane, if he's been there recently.
We've spoken about it.
Ms Erling, if I could, Councillor Ireland, if you could deal with the subject matter, I would appreciate that in this room.
Thank you, Mayor Ross. Of course. If you purchase a property with a gravel road giving you all-weather access to it, would you be happy if this was delisted and not maintained at a later stage? And it just seems that there's changes to the road hierarchy that are in question. Then why or how did these changes ever occur in the first place? And for this road, it took place multiple times with EM elected member approval in our past. 3 different road hierarchies it was changed. So this is a problem we're trying to address tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ireland. I would need a seconder for that. Councillor Rayner, do you wish to speak, Councillor Rayner?
Well, I think the council's going to get more and more of this. These requests, as land prices go up, and farmers have got to change how they're producing things. They've got to make the land more viable. So that's why I'm seconding it.
Thank you, Councillor Rayner. Is there further discussion?
Can I close quickly?
You may close, Councillor Ireland.
Thank you, Mayor. If I can just add, I believe it is important that this council makes every effort to maintain the road network that was put in place decades ago and does not let it decline any further.
Thank you, Councillor Ireland. I put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? The motion's carried. Thank you. From the SAP meeting, the Council endorses the reviewed following policy as presented, the driveways property access policy. Would someone like to move to that effect? Councillor Turner. Straightforward. Councillor Goodman. Thank you. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Would someone like to move that the Naracoorte-Lucindale Council write to the LCLGA advocating for improvements and budget allocations from DID? Councillor Turner. Councillor Rayner. Thank you, Councillor Rayner. Is there any further discussion? This was at this particular junction was an ongoing issue, Mr. Willsmore. It was disgraceful, and your ongoing begging to have money spent there finally was heard, and not before time, but this is an ongoing issue throughout the Limestone Coast. And isn't it fascinating to see that just recently, you know, they've come up with money for about 30 kilometres of state road after a lot of work by the public and others. Yes, Councillor Crossley.
I just wanted to know, have we had any discussion with our local state member regarding this, and has he advocated in any space?
No, we had a brief conversation with them. Sorry, when I say no, we had a brief conversation a couple of years ago and mentioned that these are some of the challenges we're having with DIT in terms of funding and or lack of communication. So was raised a couple of years ago, hasn't been raised any time since then.
Can I please, can we please maybe contact the local member, because I think that discussion could happen again at this point in time.
Yep, will do.
Thank you, Councillor Crosling. I put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Mundalina Road is brought forward for a resheet to be brought forward for a resheet in 25-6 budget, and consultation with local landholders will form part of the discussion. Would someone like to move to that effect? Councillor Rayner. Would you like to speak to that, Councillor Rayner?
Well, I'd just like to see it put into the budget and get it over and done with.
Thank you, Councillor Rayner. A seconder, please. Councillor Ireland. Any discussion? There being none, I put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you very much. That clarity is provided within the open space AMP to reflect all assets at Cockatoo Lake. Someone like to move to that effect? Councillor Ireland. Thank you, Councillor Ireland. Councillor Grundy. Any questions around that? There being none, I put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. The last motion from the SAP plan, that the council provide dog tidy bags at the Francis Recreational Reserve. Would someone like to move that? Councillor Goodman. Councillor Downwood. Is there any discussion? Being none, I put the motion. All those in favour? Motion's carried. Thank you. Item 13, reports for decision. Mr. McCroskey.
Thank you, Mayor Ross. Just quickly, two parts to this report is the request for a budget variation as there was unforeseen maintenance work that needs to be undertaken at the art gallery, and also just a heads up for the future councils in regards to the ongoing maintenance with buildings such as this stage of the art gallery. Nothing further.
Thank you, Mr. McCroskey, and those and the future items required will be reflected in the fourth budgets that are in the future. Thank you. Councillor, I have two. Question?
Thank you, Mayor Ross. Look, I've got no problems with that recommendation, but reading the report, I just question whether this building is maybe permanently compromised with the ongoing funding of repairs and maintenance which has been flagged in the report. Is there some way of getting a full comprehensive building inspection, for want of a better term, done on this so that we can set a clear course on what the short to medium outcome might be as far as Mr. Smart?
Well, thank you, Mr. Smart.
That's what Mr. McCroskey's report is aimed to do, of actually do some preliminary investigative work and assessment to then inform council what that may mean into the future. So that's exactly what Mr. McCroskey's report is about.
Councillor Crossley. Thank you, Councillor Crossley. Councillor Ross. Any further discussion? Being none, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McCroskey. Anything to add here, Mr. Willsmore?
Yes, further to my report, just wanted to mention we've agreed dates for our free household hard waste day. So the 26th of October will be in Narracourt and the 2nd of November will be in Lucindale. So we've done some posters up and are advertising that, but that's always a well supported event for the community. So just wanted to mention that. And also within the report, I just wanted to acknowledge the Narracourt High School. So again, partnership we have with them about looking after the section of the Narracourt Creek with them. They've propagated some of their own species this year, so they're really developing their program, and the assistance they do on the section of the creek behind them is much appreciated.
Thank you. Mr. Willsmore. Mr. McCroskey, anything to add? 14.2?
No, nothing further to add. Happy to take questions, Mayor Ross.
How's it trending this year, Mr. McCroskey? Just
relatively quiet. There's a bit of works in the pipeline in regards to commercial development, and we're still dealing with a number of land divisions, significant land divisions. We've just got to work through external agencies such as Native Veg and DIT on some of those, and hopefully if they come to fruition, then we'll have a number of residential blocks opening up shortly.
Thank you, Mr. McCroskey. Good news. Councillor Crosling.
I just wanted to make mention of the rail corridors that were mentioned in the report and congratulate the staff on their swift and speedy resolution of that. They've obviously come to an agreement with DIT, which will help. Obviously, it was brought up at last meeting out at Francis with the rail corridors, so just wanted to say job well done.
Thank you.
Councillor Goodman.
A question for Mr. McCrosty, if I may. Mine too is in regard to the rail corridors. That's really pleasing that we have reached a point now where we can take action. Just wondering if we have timeframes for when that work will be done, hoping that it will be done before fire season really kicks in.
Thank you, Councillor Goodman. Our compliance and FBI officers already started working with contractors in regards to undertaking the work. Speaking to the contractors, they're relatively mobile and should be able to undertake the work shortly, and hopefully prior to the fire danger season to reduce the fuel risk.
Thank you, Mr. McCroskey. 14.3. Mrs. Collins.
Thank you, Mayor Ross. A really quick update and a reminder and a recommendation. So, trio. First of all, update on work on the public art mural in Rivoli Arcade. That will be finished by the end of this week. There's been a huge amount of community interest in it, and if you get the opportunity, go and have a look. It's really quite stunning. We kick off our very busy an extensive program of community events on Monday with our free community morning tea in the Wanambi Gallery at the Narracall Library and Town Hall for South Australia's Week of Ageing Well. Love to see any of you there. It'll be held at 10:30, and we've got Matthew Fleischer, our local photographer, opening his photographic exhibition on Ageing Well, which is stunning. We received the prints today, and they will be hung in the gallery space on Thursday. It's going to be awesome. There's going to be 14 huge pieces, really impressive. And finally, just a recommendation to endorse a review of our public consultation and community engagement policy with just some minor track changes from the original one as we had previously agreed.
Thank you, Mrs. Collins. Any
Pleasure.
questions? Comment? Yes.
Just to again mention that the library and Town Hall are doing fantastic things. We have school holidays coming up at the end of the week, and they've got jam-packed full of events and activities for kids to do. Also leading up to the next couple of weeks, we obviously have the October long weekend. There is so much going on. Everything is completely booked out within pretty much the whole of between here and Kingston, pretty much, between the dirt carts, the junior regional hockey championships. Is it the art gallery? Nature walk, is that right? Correct. And then leading on from that, the couple of weekends after that, we obviously have the 160th Narracall show. So there is so much happening around the town. It'll be a buzz over the long weekend. So it'll be great to see many of the elected members head out to some of those events over the next few weeks.
Thank you, Councillor Crosling. Yes. I would ask someone to move the community engagement, public consultation and community engagement policy as presented. Councillor Goodman. Seconder, please. Councillor Crosling. Any further discussion? I put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 15, there is nil. 16 questions with notice. There aren't any motions with notice. There aren't any questions without notice. I haven't taken any. Motions without notice, I don't accept them. And that's not true. And 20 matters that the CEO recommends in confidence. Nothing particular.
No secrets.
No what?
No secrets.
There's been no further business. I close the meeting and thank you for your attendance. Thank you very much.